Good to see you too.
Today, and I'm hoping that the weather holds for us. Um, and I want to thank you for supporting our organization. It's because of you that the residents of Eucalyptus Hill that we stay a strong, conscientious organization. And I'd like to also give a special thank you to Gary and Marcy for letting us enjoy their lovely property for our event again. So now I'd like to call to order the meeting and introduce you to the Board of Officers. Bob Meltzer, unfortunately, is not here today because he had a wedding on the East Coast. And Bob and I will become the co-presidents for the 25-26 year. And Dave Gress, where's Dave? He's hiding. Is our board treasurer. You met him at the front gate when you came in. And Barbara Ireland is our board secretary. There's Barbara. Barbara, stand up. Okay, our other board members include Hillary Dozer, John Allman. Both Hillary and John are past presidents of the Eucalyptus Hill Improvement Association. Tom Schleck, Maureen McDermott, Peter DeRoss, and our newest member is Curtis Larson. We have four board members who are up for their term renewals, Barbara Ireland, Hillary Dozer, Maureen McDermott, and Peter DeRoss. Do I hear a motion to accept the term renewals for these four board members and the slate of board officers? Second? Okay. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. I also want to recognize our city officials that are here today. Mayor Randy Rouse. Okay. And our 4th District City Council member, Kristen Schnedden. She's in the back there. And should we introduce you guys now? Well, she gets introduced in a minute. You're not that important. We have the whole fire department here. Well, we'll introduce them later. They're going to talk to you a little bit. So for all of you who are new to the neighborhood and to our annual meeting, the Eucalyptus Hill Improvement Association is a voluntary group whose mission is to promote and preserve the quality of life for over 700 residents in our area. I don't know if you know that we have that many people in our neighborhood. I can't stress enough how your membership in the Eucalyptus Hill Improvement Association is an investment in your neighborhood. It helps us put together programs like our wireless radios, our fire mitigation projects, emergency kits, which we're able to purchase and distribute to our block volunteers. I also want to take a minute to personally thank each and every one of our block volunteers. Our association becomes more effective as we incorporate more block volunteers in our neighborhood. So if you're interested at all in becoming a block volunteer, please talk with one of the board members or myself. You actually get a wireless radio for well, I guess it isn't wireless, is it? Radio that we use for emergency situations. I know you all know about our GOAT projects. We're in our 3rd year of doing, well, actually, this is our 4th year of doing GOAT projects, fire mitigation with goats and sheep. And we will have Golden State goats clearing brush in our largest canyon, which is on the other side of Sema Linda, between Sema Linda and Eucalyptus Hill Road. That's going to start next week. That's also known as Toyon Canyon. Is that something new? I mean, no? I mean, nobody who lives on it knew that that's what it was called. Anyways, so we're especially excited about this project because the Santa Barbara County Fire Safe Council has awarded us a grant to cover the cost grant represents a crucial source of support for our community. It enables us to move forward with greater financial security and ensures that our neighborhood continues to benefit from important wildfire safety initiatives. And a special thank you to Monica Matthews, who is, there she is, she's right there, and Anne Marie Parkinson, who is not here, of the Santa Barbara County Fire Safe Council, who was instrumental in getting us the grant. Thanks to her. Eucalyptus Hill Improvement Association is continuing to work with the City Ordinance Committee on the proposed Draft Creek Buffer Ordinance, and it's currently written, and hope you've submitted comments to support the changes that we've requested. Your comments are crucial in getting these changes made. We've met with Melissa Hetrick, who's the Resilience Program Supervisor, and Erin Markey, who's the Creek Division Manager, to go over the changes that we're requesting for this ordinance. We also walked the Toyon Canyon with Erin Markey, which the city is now considering a major creek, so she could see that even in the spring rains, that there's very little water running in that canyon. So we're requesting that they reclassify this creek to be a minor creek. We're going to keep you updated on the any future meetings and the changes that are being made to the ordinance. Okay. Board members met with city officials recently in regards to our efforts to slow down traffic on Alston Road by having neighbors sign a petition, and then we presented it to the Santa Barbara City Council. But unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get speed humps on Alston Road as it's been designated an emergency evacuation route. We're now working together to get speed radar signs in the near future. And I'm hoping Kelly McAdoo has good news for us today. She is our guest speaker today. She's the Santa Barbara City Administrator and Treasurer. She began her tenure in Santa Barbara in May of 2024. Prior to arriving to Santa Barbara, she served the city of Hayward for 14 years, 8 of which she was the city manager. Before joining the Hayward team, she worked with the city of Palo Alto as a deputy city manager. Eucalyptus Hill Improvement Association will be working closely with Kelly on our proposed radar speed signs for Alston Road. And she would be happy to answer any of your questions. Kelly?
Well, yeah, I guess you gotta hold it up close to your mouth.
Thank you, Sue. And I just want to thank everyone for having me here. A really horrible view to have to come and spend my Sunday afternoon here. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm just coming up on my first year anniversary with the city of Santa Barbara, and it has been a busy and amazing first year. I have learned a lot. This community has been incredibly welcoming, and have spent most of my first year just really getting up to speed, getting to meet and do meet and greets with different neighborhood associations, with a lot of community groups, and I have pretty much an open door policy. And so I've talked with a few folks here today, and happy to if you have issues that have come up or you're having struggles or challenges, always happy to try and see if we can work through those. And I think a very productive meeting we had with Sue and some of the other board members on the speed radar signs. I'll speak specifically to that because I know everyone's very anxiously awaiting my big reveal. So we worked with obviously our fire team, the police department, and our traffic engineers. And as you heard, Alston Road is challenging because it is a designated evacuation route. And so that makes it difficult in terms of the different speed control options that we have on that street. Eventually, hopefully, I think we would love to see, they are piloting, I think it's in 10 or 11 different cities around the state, actual radar cameras, like speed cameras that would issue citations. And so it basically is if you are documented, sort of like the red light cameras. So it would be a citation-based system, but that's only being piloted in 11 cities. Santa Barbara is unfortunately not one of those. So we're looking at the speed radar signs as an alternative. And what we have identified as about 11 potential locations throughout the city to do a pilot program, and Alston Road is one of them. And so police department and the traffic engineers, we wanted to do traffic count and speed analysis before and then after, so we can see if the radar signs are effective in slowing speed and or traffic volumes. So they've just completed that. They'll be reviewing the data this week, and I think then we'll be working with the board to figure out some funding options for those signs, and working with the board also on installation location. So I'm hopeful that, you know, maybe in the next 3 to 6 months we can get those signs installed. So that is my goal, and I'm very happy I appreciate the partnership with the neighborhood to try to figure out how we do this. And so we will, again, I think, you know, the city can't do everything, and so we appreciate partnerships through our neighborhood associations, and we're just really grateful for that. I did want to just, since you brought up the creek buffer ordinance, I have been working closely with the staff team on that as well. And for those who don't know kind of the impetus for why we had to develop that creek buffer ordinance, if you've been following any of the state legislation around making it easier to develop housing, one of the things that is part of that legislation is the elimination of subjective standards or staff discretion in review of new housing projects. And so the way that our former creek buffer ordinance and creek review was structured, it basically the state said it left too much discretion from staff that could be used to prevent housing development. And so as part of our last housing element adoption, sorry, I'm getting some feedback. The State Housing and Community Development Department said this is one of the things you need to clean up. You need to create objective standards for how development occurs within the creek buffers. And so I think we had a little bit of a misstep out the start on this. The staff team is reevaluating. We've gotten a lot of really productive feedback. I've met with a number of stakeholder groups and neighbors with their concerns, and hearing that. We're going to be coming back to the city council probably in the next couple of months. We'll present all the feedback we've heard and kind of our revised approach to that creek buffer ordinance. So really appreciate the neighbors providing feedback on that. I think it's going to be super helpful, and hopefully find a way to both fulfill our requirements from the state perspective, and also just finding something that works for neighbors who are in the creek buffer zone. So just wanted to talk about that. I think, you know, you heard a little bit about my background. Just personally, I have a 20-year-old daughter who goes to college in Virginia. I'm going to go back there next week to pick her up. I live down by Santa Barbara Junior High, and happy to be a new resident of Santa Barbara. And it's been a great first year on the job. And I'm happy to answer any and all questions. I'll see if I can do that before I turn it over to our friends from the fire department to share some information. So,
how many policemen do you have on staff that are on motorcycles?
Oh, the question was how many police officers are on staff that are on motorcycles? I'm not sure, actually. I mean, I think it's like 2 or 3, and when we had so many vacancies in the police department, we actually had to disband the traffic unit for some period of time. We filled a lot of those vacancies this last year. The chief has done a really great job filling those. So, but it's usually only 2 or 3 traffic officers at a time, and that's for the entire city of Santa Barbara.
Well, we'd like to welcome them to come up and see us.
They are always happy to. I know Chief Gordon has been up here as a guest speaker as well, and we try to rotate their resource load and try to get them out to the neighborhoods that we know are most impacted with speeding. So
because we've been hit twice, both ways. One coming from Montecito and one from Santa Barbara. Cleaned out my mailboxes and everything.
Yeah,
so
I know.
We want to see him more often.
I will pass along the request to Chief Gordon, and we will again try to get those traffic officers out here on a more regular basis. So, other questions? Okay, well, I'm going to first turn it over to Chief Chris Males, who is our fire chief, and we also have our fire marshal, Ryan DiGiulio, and Mark Vontilla, who are all going to talk about wildland fire and kind of the outlook for this season, and also just some of the developments following the pretty tragic wildfires in LA this winter, and some of the things that are going on at the state level to help rebuild there, but also to help all of us be a little safer in our high fire hazard zones. So I will turn it over to Chief Males.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for the warm invitation. Thanks for letting the fire department be here. Unlike Kelly, that's been here for a year, I am at 31 and a half years in the city of Santa Barbara. So that makes me, yeah. I don't even know, I'm not senile yet, but I'm close, I know that. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about the fire department. I know a lot of you know about the fire department, but I want to give a very high flight what your fire department is and just a little bit about what we do on a daily basis. So I know that we're here to talk about wildland fire, and we're going to do that. So what I'm going to do is start kind of large. We're going to talk about the department a little bit, and then we're going to drill down into the wildland side of it, and then I've got a couple speakers here for you. I'm also going to touch really briefly on the Palisades and the Eaton fire, because those two fires have changed fundamentally how complex wildland firefighting can be. So first, just a little bit about our department. We have 105 members of our department. We are split into 4 divisions. The first division is administration. That's largely the business side. There's operations, and that is basically the firefighters that you see every day on fire engines, and that consists of 90 personnel. So the bulk of our fire department is people on fire engines. We also have emergency management. We have an emergency manager who oversees long-term planning and oversight of your major emergencies, not your typical Santa Barbara incident, but your earthquakes, your large fires, floods, things like that. So we also have a public education coordinator. And the fourth and final division is our Fire Prevention Bureau. Our Fire Prevention Bureau is headed by Ryan DiGiulio, who's our fire marshal. Within that division, we have 2 tracks. So think fire prevention, fire marshal, and 2 tracks. One track is what we would call the structure side. We've got inspectors and investigators that handle all of the buildings in the city. And then the other track is the wildland side. And so Chief DiGiulio oversees both. He sees both the structure, down flatlands, if you want to say it, the buildings in Santa Barbara, and then he also oversees the wildland side. And in the wildland side, we have Mark Vontilla, who you've probably all met and spent some time with. Mark's a wealth of information and a huge help for us. Additionally, in addition to our 105 personnel that we also have a 6-person vegetation management crew. This started 2 years ago, and it was interesting. Mark came to Ryan and I and said, hey, there's this new coastal conservancy grant, and we literally sat down and on a napkin came up with an amazing plan to bring in 6 young people, because you're not going to get me to do it. Those days are long gone. Chainsaws and hillsides, those days are, but we have a vegetation management crew that works in parks and open spaces. We were fortunate to get a 2-year grant from the Coastal Conservancy, and then Parks and Rec teamed up with us, and we then received a CAL FIRE grant that goes for 5 years. So through 2029, we have a fuels crew that's able to work in open spaces. It's the first time, parks and open spaces, first time we've had dedicated people that are working in our open spaces to mitigate the vegetation management threat. So we're working on different ways to continue that crew and to enhance their capabilities. Couple other things super timely and kind of exciting for me to talk about. A couple of years ago, the City Council approved the fire department moving to a regional fire communications center. Right now, your fire departments are typically dispatched by their law enforcement partners. So we are dispatched right now in the city by the city police department. A number of years ago, some fire chiefs before us had this idea that, hey, economies of scale, fire departments work so much across boundaries because our responses often involve large numbers of people. So I'm really pleased to tell you that this month, the Regional Fire Communications Center is opening and includes every single local government fire department in the county of Santa Barbara. What that's done for us, yeah, it's amazing. What that has done for us is effectively turned the city of Santa Barbara from an 8-station department to a 37-station department. Okay? So that means that there's not going to be delays between dispatch centers saying, hey, can you send us resources? No. Think of the entire county as being one big chessboard, and units are going to be moved around. I'll just give you an example. We had a large fire in Solvang earlier this week, and we sent 2 fire engines from downtown Santa Barbara to Solvang. When they didn't need us in Santa Barbara, or excuse me, in Solvang for the fire, we then covered the San Ynez Valley, and then we returned. So I use that recent example because that's how it's going to work when we need help in Santa Barbara. Okay, not only are we going to have additional resources, but we're going to have resources moving around to make sure that all areas of the county are covered. So the next major incident that we have, we're going to have resources moving all over. So really excited about that. The last thing I wanted to cover, and Mark and Ryan might get into a little bit more detail, is I wanted to talk a little bit about the Palisades and the Eaton fire. Because there's been a lot of discussion about what went right and what went wrong, and wasn't down there, so it's going to be very difficult for me to. I don't Monday morning quarterback. I don't criticize. There's so many more things that obviously they're aware of that we are. However, what I do want to say is a couple of things. These fires were not vegetation fires. Okay, people think they were brush fires. Okay, they were brush fires for about the first 40 minutes. And then what we had was sustained house-to-house transmission of fire. The fire was out of the vegetation very quickly, but the vegetation around the houses and the houses themselves are what propagated the continuation of the fire. Get a lot of questions about hydrants. Did they run out of water? Yes, they did. Fire hydrant systems are tied into your domestic water, and those hydrants are not designed to have more than 2 or 3 of them open at a time. So when there's 500 hydrants open at the same time, they're going to run out of water. The system is not designed that way. Okay, another thing that happens is as homes burn and collapse, the water lines break in those houses. And what happens when water lines break within houses, there's a free flow of water inside the houses, and that also drains on the system. And I always tell people, have you ever watched a news story a couple days later after a vegetation fire or a house fire, and you see the reporter standing in someone's driveway and there's a big swath of water coming down the driveway into the street? That's because the water's still running inside the house and the house has been destroyed. So we kind of need to reset and understand that in fires of that magnitude, we may not have water in the hydrant system. However, what we do have in this county is a large number of water tenders, water tankers, that are automatically dispatched into areas like this that carry 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 gallons of water, and their sole job is to shuttle back and forth and supply those apparatus. In other words, what I'm saying is we bring our own water in. Okay, so the fear of having run out of water in that area, that did in fact happen. It has happened on fires that I've been on before. So these fires have really kind of reset in people's minds the magnitude of what started as a brush fire but quickly became something that we would call a community or an urban conflagration. Okay, so we kind of have to think a little bit differently. Those fires down there, that was an 8.0 earthquake, and that was a Hurricane Katrina. Okay, we have learned, and this isn't going to be a flash in the pan where people go, oh yeah, it was just a fire. This is fundamentally going to change the way that we firefight in the urban interface. It's fundamentally going to change that, and it already has. So changes are already occurring. So I just want you to have that kind of mindset that some of the things that made headlines were in fact the case. But again, we have to change our thought process when we're dealing with hundreds and in fact, thousands of homes on fire at the same time. So I don't want to be the Debbie Downer and end with that, but I just want to make sure we're kind of understand the magnitude of those fires. They were truly unprecedented. Yes.
Question: if we're evacuating, should we turn off our water main?
So Katie actually asked me that question last week. Did you tip her off with that question? So Sue just asked, hey, if we're evacuating, should we turn off the water? I'm gonna a couple things to think about first. Do you have either an exterior fire protection system or is your house sprinklered? If you do have an exterior fire protection system or your house is sprinklered, you'd want to leave it on. I would concentrate on what you should do typically, which is make sure your doors are closed, drapes are drawn, that kind of thing, before you think about water. Gas would be more important to me than water, but I don't even know if I was evacuating, I'd think about water, but especially with some type of a fire protection system. Okay, so that's it for me. So I want to introduce Ryan DiGiulio. And again, he's our fire marshal. He's in charge of those two sections, the structure and the wildland side. So Ryan? Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. As Chief Mails mentioned, my name is Ryan DiGiulio. I'm the fire marshal here with the city. I walked in this afternoon and I looked at the view and I looked at the podium and I thought maybe Chief was going to make me renew my vows with the city. I got this sneaky suspicion. But thank you for hosting. It's absolutely beautiful to be here this afternoon. I am ecstatic that this many people are here this afternoon to hear us talk about wildfire preparation, wildfire prevention, what you can do, what we're doing. Unfortunately, the events happen down south, but the silver lining is there's meetings and groups like this happening all over. And I think it's one good thing we can take away from those tragedies of getting our community together and our neighborhoods together to try to take on this huge wildland urban interface problem that we have here in our city and across the Southland, really. So one question, and if you've heard my spiel before, please forgive me. Show of hands, Chief Allman, you cannot answer this question. How many firefighters are on duty right now in the city of Santa Barbara as we speak? Anybody want to guess? Sue. Loy. Sorry. Oh, nice job, Loy. Anybody else want to guess?
What did he say?
Loy guessed 28.
I'll give 30.
30, 35. I feel like I'm an auctioneer. 40, now you're 45, 50, 55. So Loy was almost correct. 29 firefighters right now on duty in the city of Santa Barbara. What's our population? 90,000. In the summer, if there's something going on at the bowl, if Fiesta's happening, 150, 9 million. Yes, that's what it feels like, for sure. Why do I bring those numbers up? And I don't want to spook you, but if a wildfire's coming, we can't come to everybody's house. We can't come to every neighborhood right out of the gate. So we need the partnership with our community and our neighborhoods. So it's by no mistake that our community wildfire protection plan, the first word in that is community. It takes all of us to come together and put an effort to combat this issue that's absolutely beautiful this time of year, and in 3 months is going to be brown, and the sundowners are going to blow, and we're all going to get nervous. So it takes that effort for all of us as a community to lessen the impact of that. So, by show of hands, who has heard of the CWPP, the Community Wildfire Protection Plan? City officials, you don't count. Great. A lot of you have. That's great. Yeah, I hope, Randy, you know what it is. When you get a chance, it's on our fire department website. It's the Community Wildfire Protection Plan. What it is a pretty robust document that we had council approve that basically is our guideline. Hey, what's the city going to do? How are we going to tackle this? So within that, it shows everything from evacuation routes to fuel modification project work we're going to do with that vegetation hand crew that Chief Mails mentioned. What areas are we going to prioritize? How are we going to tackle this big issue that's in front of us? So that document is actually the guideline that we're using. So we came up with that document. We got the grant funding. We got some folks to do that work. And it's very exciting to see it all come together. And so the last piece of that puzzle is to get the community and the homeowners to partner with us so we can bring that whole document to fruition and really put a stance. So what does that look like? It looks like a couple things. The two most important things that you can do for your property is to harden your home and to do defensible space vegetation removal. So the city, oh, sorry, Mark. I'm taking Mark's talking points. I should probably stop now. Thanks for coming, Mark. Appreciate it. So I'll save the bulk of that for Mark, the details of that. But if each homeowner can do those two things with the work that the city's doing, it's really going to make a big impact. And it's not to moonscape our beautiful town. It's to make a strategic mosaic to be able to break that fire front that's going to come down the hills. Do I think a fire is going to come down again into the city? Yes. If you've been here longer than 2 weeks, no, really, if you've been here longer than 5 years, 10 years, this is my 23rd year. Unfortunately, all of us are wearing scars, mentally and some of us physically, of the fires that have come down and impacted our community. Now's the time to put in the effort and the work. When it's cool, when the vegetation's full and it's going to start dying off here in a little while. Now's the time to do the work to prepare for the next time one of those fires comes through. So we're taking some strategic approaches to tackle that. I will say one thing that's a little different about us than the events that happen down in LA County are groups like this. So when I come and I talk to different neighborhood associations, whenever I hear Eucalyptus Hill, I think, oh, this is varsity. This is no offense to the other groups, and I love that they're starting, but we're just getting them spun up. But when I hear Eucalyptus Hill Improvement Association, I go, okay, this is varsity. These are people that are doing their homework. They're doing the work now. So kudos to this group. You guys are really ahead of the ball and ahead of the game. Some of the folks down south didn't know any of these programs even existed. They didn't know about their local fire safe councils, which is an amazing partnership we have here in the county. And we're lucky. Utilize them. Use them. That's what they're here for. So kudos to you guys for that. One other thing I wanted to talk about before I kick it to Mark, before I steal all of his talking points, is you may or may not know that CAL FIRE is the big state fire department, right? So they're supposed to do it a little bit more timely, but it's been over 10 years since they've issued high fire hazard maps. So what that means is the state is obligated by law to issue maps throughout the entire state of California that define what areas of the state have a higher hazard when it comes to wildland fires. So the state lands have all been done. Now it's time for the local lands to do that, and we're one of those local jurisdictions. Those maps have just come out. It does not affect your area up here. You guys have already been designated a high fire hazard area by the city and the state, but some of these maps have expanded other areas in the city. So over by Elings Park, nobody is immune. I live over there, and I am now in a high fire hazard severity zone. So if you think the fire marshal can go knock on somebody's door in the state, you're mistaken. So that area over by Douglas Family Preserve, so some of these open areas have expanded in high fire hazard severity zones as the state has issued them. We as the city have to adopt those or make them more stringent, which we have, and those maps will be released later on this summer, and you can take a look at those. So any questions before I kick it over to Mark?
No, what have you done for roads? How evacuation from this area?
Yeah, good question. The question is, what are we doing about roads and the evacuation routes? So as you folks know, we have a very special and unique program That's not only just for you guys, for most of you that live in this area, but throughout the whole state and really the western U.S. is our Wildfire Suppression Assessment District, right? WFSAD. That is a tax that a lot of the folks in this neighborhood pay every year to get some of that work done. So part of that WFSAD funding is to clear the roadsides of that vegetation once a year to not only improve the evacuation routes of folks getting out, but for us to get in and to eliminate roadside starts. So people flicking cigarettes out of their car, catalytic converters malfunctioning that start fires in the wildland area. So that's some of the work that we're doing annually with that funding to try to eliminate those potentials of wildfires beginning. Any other questions? Yes.
I wanted to ask, do you still log all the properties that have swimming pools so you have additional water sources? I saw in prior years where they have some apparatus you can put in the pool and homeowners could fight the fires. And we used to do that. I've been here 45 years, and we used to log which homes had pools, just like which homes had elders and which homes had children, so we could get them out. But nobody's inquired for the last 20-some years.
So the question is does the fire department log properties that have pools in them, or special circumstances, elderly or children in certain parcels? So the short answer is no. And the reason why is because with things like Google Maps and different mapping applications that we have, when you'll see these strike teams come in or all these engines from out of town, when they go assess a neighborhood, they do a 360 evaluation of the entire house. And right then and there, they'll go, there's a pool. And they'll go, fantastic. So they can draft the water out of that pool if need be. On really big properties, you might even seen helicopters dip out of pools and take that water. So do we have a giant log of all those? Not necessarily, but can we gain that information at a moment's notice? Yes. Any other questions? Great. I'm going to kick it over to Mark. I don't know if you guys have met Mark yet. Oh, one last thing I wanted to share with you. Do you guys remember Chris? Anybody here know Chris Braden? You guys have worked with Chris in the past? Chris isn't working for the city anymore. He's decided to move on, which was a sad day for us, but he was in charge of that WFSAD project I had mentioned, the Wildfire Suppression Assessment District. We are in the final stages of hiring a new person there, so once they are up and running, we'll share that information with all the folks here at Eucalyptus Hill, and we'll get you introduced to that person so you can work hand in hand with them. So I'm going to bring up Mark. Mark is an absolute gem, and we are so fortunate to have him here in the city. Mark worked for 30 years on the Los Padres forest. I'll try not to brag about him too much, but do you guys remember the Whittier fire?
Yeah.
Do you remember all those kids that were rescued out of there? Mark was in charge of that. So we are lucky to have him here in the city. So with that, I'll bring up our wildland fire specialist, Mark Fontillo, and he'll go into a little bit more detail.
Thanks, Ryan. You're welcome. Thank you all. It's good to be here. This is, I think, my third, maybe my fourth time. The crowd seems to be bigger every year, Sue and Loy. So things are happening in the right direction up here, right? I think between Chief Males and Chief DeGiulio, they talked about a lot of things that I had written down. A couple of things, though, that we can talk about is what's the current outlook right now for wildfire behavior coming up. So National Weather Service, along with South Ops down in Riverside, puts out an outlook every 3 months to say, hey, where we're at, what's going on. Does it look like we're going to have a high fire season early, midsummer, late fall? Right now, given the last little bit of rain we've had, that's changed dramatically. The fuel moistures, which is what drives our staffing, 62% is considered critical. Last week it was at about 80, and it jumped up to 114% just with that little bit of rain. So things are starting to soak in right now. Things are greening up. It's going to be a little bit of a delay to have a bad fire season. That being said, 80-mile-an-hour winds can override any of that. They were talking about it earlier. You got to remember, we're not heroes. We're not superhuman. If we step out in an 80-mile-an-hour wind, we're trying to stand up as well, let alone fight a fire. So like the chief said, conflagration fires are completely different. We're just trying to get people out of the way. What else goes on here? Next week, we start the chipping program on Ukill, right? So everybody's seen the signs, get your stuff out there. We'll be there for 2 weeks doing that stuff. Probably one of the other things I want to talk about, and Ryan mentioned it, home hardening and defensible space evaluations. We offer a free defensible space and home hardening evaluation, as well as our friends from Santa Barbara County Fire Safe Council. Feel free to call us. Go on the website, put an appointment in. We've been more than happy to come out and look at your home and your property. It used to be that we just looked at vegetation around the property. The pendulum has now swung to hardening the home. That is the highest survivability rate that you're going to get for your vents, your windows, your doors, your roof, all that stuff is the stuff you want to focus on to get the highest survivability. So when you're walking around and looking at that stuff, start looking at your vents. Are they from the 70s or the 80s? Do they need to be upgraded? Those kind of things help. Then concentrate on the vegetation. So we used to move from the vegetation towards the house. Now we want to move from the house towards the vegetation. And am I turning this over to you, Sue?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, I think that's, unless you have questions for me. Question, two.
You mentioned earlier about some program was going to allow a chipping program. Within reason, how much can we put out?
As much as you think you can put out.
We can fill the whole street.
Well, you get not fill, don't want to block the access, you know. But there has been, I'll tell you right now, the 2 neighborhoods that we have done prior, an enormous amount. So people are getting the message, and the crew that's doing it is not falling behind.
And when does it start?
Monday. Question in the back.
Does the mountains at all protect us from the high 80 mile an hour winds?
I still can't hear you.
Does the topography of the mountains protect us a little bit from the 80 mile an hour winds?
So what we have here are sundowners, right? And this is a common misconception here. People think Santa Ana's. We do not really get a Santa Ana wind. It's driven out of the east, and as far as it gets is out the 126 corridor, and it just kind of blows to the ocean. The sundowners are what we get here. There's a couple of micro topography features that don't allow it to get into certain pockets, but the canyons that are lined up from the top to the bottom are the ones that really get the most wind. Sir.
Are we having any kind of fire breaks that they used to make one time in the mountains or not?
So I can tell you there's only one fire break that goes from the Camino Cielo down to the Highway 154. That's the Windy Gap fuel break, which I've worked on for a number of years. It was successful in a couple of fires that we've had, but as far as inside the city, no.
Mark, the fire suppression systems, internal and external, is one better than the other? Do you need both, or what's the effectiveness of each?
So I'll tell you about the external one before I let Ryan talk to you about the internal one. The external one, obviously, a lot of people have been asking, should I put one in? Should I put one in? There's 2 things about it, right? If it's calm like this and there's a fire, yes, it can help your house. If it's 80 mile an hour winds, you're watering the neighbor's property is all you're doing, you know? So it's a big investment for, you know, not really, I don't think they're too effective in the wind.
And does the internal fire suppression system do more damage than the fire?
Water damage.
You can tell that Mark spends a lot of time outside because as soon as there's an inside question, he's like, Ryan? So internal fire sprinkler systems are designed for just that, inside your home. They have a 96% effective rate of keeping the fire to just one sprinkler head that goes down. Oh, common misconception, because everybody here watches movies. If you smoke a cigarette, this fire sprinkler system goes off. Not true. If the fire sprinkler system goes off, all of them go off. Not true. It's just one sprinkler head where the heat is. So those systems are designed for inside your house. Should you put one in your house? Yes.
I have one.
Okay. Everybody put a fire sprinkler system in your house. Do they work in wildland fires? The fire's already breached your house at that point, so they're not really designed for protection of the exterior when a fire's coming through, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
So I talked to some people tonight out here that said they have gotten the door hangers. Chief Allman, where you at? So he back there has said that he's seen the signs and the mailbox notices are getting done. So it should be more this week coming.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I mean, that was a nice surprise having you guys come talk. I appreciate that. Our next guest speaker is our own Eucalyptus Hill Improvement Association block volunteer, Marcy Burton. And she's has Kate Furlong and Monica Matthews from the Santa Barbara County Fire Safe Council.
It's so wonderful to have everybody here. There's nothing that makes me happier than people enjoying the garden and neighbors getting together. And really? That no one's ever typically said that. So I said, how nice, as being a native Texan, neighbors are next to family. And we have wonderful neighbors around here, and we all work together very closely. And we need to do this more often, not just once a year. So it's great. So now, this is kind of interesting. I don't know that everybody planned it this way, but now what, as neighbors, can we do to kind of start working on making the houses? I know I'm looking at that big thing there, what that would take to get that out. I said I should have had it in the front yard instead of the backyard. It's bad. But I want to introduce Kate Furlong, Monica Matthews. But Kate and I have been joined at the hip for about 3 months to create a Firewise community, and that consists of about 112 homes. We call it C. Melinda Eucalyptus Hill. And I don't know if many of you recall, but back in September we started the process. It took about 2 months, 2.5, 3 months. And I mean, it's just important for you to get started, get a few neighbors. We happen to have 112 houses, but you can start with just 8 homes. And Kate walked us through very carefully, and it never could have happened without her. She's wonderful. We're friends for life. So she's just like that. But I want to recognize it's also important to have a committee. I just got it started and found the right people to help. So our committee is, and they're all here, and I want to recognize them: Curtis Larson down the street, Jim Riley, Pierce Dunn, I don't know if Pierce is here, Bill Yates, I can't believe Big Bad Bill is not here. Okay, Jerry LaMonaco, Steve Hopkins, he lives right down the way from me, Redding and Andrea Wilson, I don't think they're here, and Tony, thank you, Tony Vasillo really came to help us at one of our meetings. So our Firewise community runs all of C. Melinda, Woodland, both sides of Alston to Rometto. And back when we finally got our approval, which was early September, we then put together a package that we delivered to every single house. And that package included, I think people were perhaps a little leery of it, I guess, but in that package was, which I hope maybe you still have it and maybe you put it in a drawer, but I suggest that you get it out. So that package included a letter explaining what the Firewise community was and did and what the purpose was. It also had a certificate. So every person that is within our community received a certificate. And I want to encourage you to send that certificate either to your agent, your homeowner's insurance agent, or directly to the carrier. So whether or not it's up to the discretion of each carrier whether they're going to give you a discount or not, but what it does is they're going to recognize you as someone who is taking steps to protect their home. So I didn't get as good a response as I hoped I was going to, but it's okay. It's going to take time, and we're just going to keep having events and doing things to improve our community. You also had a map. So I want you now to recognize who's on the committee in our community and to please contact us and we'll give you more direction. One of our first goals, and Mark talked about that, and Kate got us onto that, is you can see, like I have a lot of vents over there, is we found, you recommended this great guy, I don't know where he is, Texas, but fireproofing with the mesh. Okay. I gotta. Can you hold that for me? Okay, here, Kate.
Suitable.
You have them at your. You have them at your booth. But what we wanted to try to do is get a group to do it together, so we can order a big, huge roll of all of this stuff, and then get a break on and having it installed. And so we're going to try to do that. Curtis, you're already in starting it, but you didn't wait for the rest of us who wanted to do it together. And do it as a group. So anyway, it's good. We're making progress, and we're going to keep working on it. And so look in your mailbox. We're gathering all names, phone numbers. Bill, I know you've seen Bill Yates, and he's walked up and down the street going and talking to everybody about that. So please be open about sharing your contact information, email, or the best way to contact you so that we can include you in all these future projects. Yes, Tony. Yeah.
I just wanted to follow up. The first time I contacted AAA and I showed them the certificate, they knew nothing about fail-safe program.
Fire safe. If you said fail safe, that's probably why.
But about 6 weeks ago, my AAA agent.
Yep.
I talked with him, and he said we checked into it, and they're going to reduce the. They're going to give us a break on the insurance.
Great, terrific.
Came out and took a look at the property, said, and now they know about the program. So everyone in this 112 house area.
Yep. Yep. Well,
At least AAA knows about it. If you have AAA, give them a call. You'll get a reduction in your fire insurance.
Yeah, no, it's great. Thanks, Tony. Yep. So let's just keep working on it. Be open. If you get an email, or please be open to reading that. And if you're interested in participating in getting the Firewise mesh on vents, and I don't know, Mark, what other things, but that's probably the most important right now, right? So, and if you don't have your certificate and you need another one, I'm happy. I've got plenty of them. And so I was going to turn it over to Kate, and then you're going to talk about the goats. Okay, honey bun.
All right, well, thank you. Yeah, so my name is Kate Furlong. I am the Community Resilience Lead for the Santa Barbara County Fire Safe Council. So we are a local 501c3 nonprofit. We aren't in the government, but we partner with them very well. What I like to say is we kind of act as a conduit between the community conversations with the fire department, so we can kind of distill it a little more, so we can have a unified voice for the specific area. So I run the Firewise USA program. It's one that is actually implemented by the National Fire Protection Association, and CAL FIRE reviews all of the plans. So this isn't just us saying ideas. These are things that have been proven in past fires and that align with what the fire agencies are recommending. So when we work together, what we're really trying to do is reclaim this whole idea of community. So this is so wonderful to see so many of you here. And as Marcy was saying we need to do this more often. So, because the more that you're connected, the safer you are. When the power's out and all communications are shut down, who are you looking to? You're looking to your direct neighbors. So you guys can become an asset to each other or a hazard to each other, depending on how you actually work together, right? You can create conflicts for one another on the roadways if you don't have a plan. So that's a beautiful thing about these Firewise USA programs, is that it's a way for us to work together, to not shame each other, but to partner, use our local resources, and try to address our personal and overall fire risks. So then we are safer, our homes are safer, and our first responders are safer. A lot of these projects that we recommend also have a lot of benefits that aren't just fire related. So that vent project, how many of you have had rodent problems? Okay, just two. Great. So up to okay, gophers. Well, I don't know of any arson gophers, but when it comes to like rodent entry into your home, so updating those vents can help reduce the risk of rodents getting in. Rodents are an absolutely will happen. Fire is a probably will happen. So if that kind of helps motivate you, I'll do whatever I need to. We also try to recommend about specific species to use. So we work with the local universities. We work with the Insurance Institute of Business and Home Safety, with the Botanic Gardens. We're doing a lot of studies right now to try to make sure that we're providing you with the most accurate recommendations. There are a couple species that if we never saw them again, we would be very, very happy people. Main one is Italian cypress. How many people have those around their houses? All right. You know what the fire department calls them? Roman candles. Yeah. So and torches. Yeah. So one of those things. If we can push to remove anything, that would be the first thing we want to get rid of. But we make sure that we're not just leaving you in the dark. We're not just throwing a bunch of recommendations at you and then say, okay, good luck. Have fun, work together. We're here the entire time. So if you're a part of an existing Firewise USA community or you're not sure, make sure to reach out to your leaders and you can review our 3-year action plan that we help create. That is where we go over education, home hardening, defensible space, as well as evacuation planning. So just make sure that you're keeping on track with everyone. We're not trying to get it all done in a day. We can't eat the elephant in one bite, but what we want to do is try to move the needle, right? Every little bit counts. You all being here today counts. We want to try to work together. It takes a village. When we have these fires that are this huge, we need to work together. So we're here to help you, try to uplift you, and try to help connect you to resources. Being part of Firewise also really helps us understand what your actual needs are versus us making assumptions. All right, beautiful.
Thanks, Kate. Yeah, hi, good afternoon. I'm Monica Matthews. I worked with Sue Burke, thanks for the reminder, along with our executive director, Anne-Marie Parkinson, who was not able to make it today, to get you goats out in your preserve, in your little community area. I know this has happened in years prior, but this year we were very happy to fund it through a Southern California Edison grant. So that's all paid for. Sue was quintessential, instrumental in making sure that you all knew that we were going to be out there with the goats. And by we, I do not mean myself. We are working with Golden State Goats, who is a very well-loved grazing operation that actually, as of right now, is at Barone Ranch, ready to go with the goats. And they'll be out here in a few days, which is very exciting. If you do have any questions about how this all works, what the objective is, I'm sure you're aware fuel reduction is the main objective. As was mentioned, we are trying to essentially break up fuel continuity, basically just trim down dead brush, trim back any overgrown shrubs, also bring back natives. Natives are much more resilient when it comes to wildfire events. So that's painting with a broad brush is kind of some of our objectives for this project. But if you do have any questions at all, please feel free to come by our tent. We're the white and green tent back there, and I'd be happy to chat. It was also mentioned that we do have a defensible space assistance program, home hardening assistance that will be coming online. So if any of these are interesting to you, please feel free to come by and chat, and we'd be happy to discuss. And I think I'm going to hand it off to Sue, but thank you all very much.
Thank you. And now, what you've all been waiting for, the raffle. Get out your tickets.
One goat.
One goat. You want a goat? Actually, I have a couple goats that I'm giving away. Okay, so you wanted goats, so we have goats. So the person who has 8610. No. Oh. You do. You get a goat. Do you have grandkids?
My dog will love it.
Oh, no. Thank you.